Hello and welcome back to Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish with me, Barton. Right, I've got a nice cup of tea and I'm ready for some great story as well. But before we do that, let me show you our stats. So, Physician 32, Surgeon 56, Mysticism 40, Presence 46, Panache 48, Resilience 54. So all of those need work, definitely. Inclination, we're compassionate more than ruthless, blasphemous more than pious, populist more than feudalist, principled more than opportunistic, and then jovial and dour kind of 50-50. So I'd imagine those will, in terms of which the dominant side is, will stay pretty much the same, but maybe actually things like compassion, blasphemous, and populist would probably increase over time. Principled would probably decrease as we kind of have to make choices that we're not all that happy with, but maybe it's just the right choice for the situation at the time. And then I expect as well that things like compassionate will probably, as I said, increase, but later on maybe decrease as we have to make those kind of decisions that go against our principles. But we'll see. Directing death then, sourcing contagion is 42%, progress of cure 28, spread of infection 36. So we're kind of in a bit of trouble there because the spread of infection is faster than the progress on the cure, and that's going to mean everybody's going to die probably before we find a cure. Then unrest is at 58%, dweller influence 40%. Okay. And then denizens, so Alice 60%, Ayoko 46, Lucy 61, Sybil 27. Yeah, we didn't make a great first impression on her. Alviva 30%, Theobald 30, and we saw Dweller there already. Okay. Right, so let's return to the game and let's go to dinner. Dinner is served. You dine on cuts of boiled rabbit, browned in its own grease and splashed with ale. A straightforward meal in ordinary times, but a gluttonous bounty in comparison with the scarcity in the town below. Mayor Blake, seated at the head of the great oak table, makes apologetic excuses for the meal between mouthfuls of fennel and minced onion. "This peasant fare," she says, shaking her head enough vigor to make the jewelled webbing around her hair jingle. "I'm mortified, but these shortages." To make up for the food falling short of her standards, Sybil has ensured the room has aristocratic finesse in abundance. Elegant silverware and gold-rimmed platters dazzle with tacit extravagance. An intricate floral centerpiece draws the eye, spilling out of a vase, patterned with delicate brushstrokes. Every wall has been redressed by the servants, decorated with tapestries, textiles, and portraits, none of which were present when you stood in the room earlier in the day. "Mouth closed, darling," Sybil says. "An heir does not display his chewed food to an audience. Remember your lessons." Aylwyn, seated in the spot opposite Mother, obeys with glum compliance. "Now," she says, "I trust you doctors will soon have dealt with these dreadful indispositions afflicting the town." You glance around the faces of your colleagues. Okay, so we can't ask these two, so discussing the supplies. And we can't ask that because we didn't go to the garden. Okay. Before we get to that, I want to know about your book collection. "Your reputation is at stake, yet you wish to discuss literature," Sybil says. Very well, ask your questions. Text inside the glass cabinet, you say. Much older than the rest of the collection. When did you come to possess them? I trust you're only looking at these books. They are so delicate. I gave Eowyn very clear instructions. Of course, you reply, holding her gaze. Well, there's no mystery to it. Many objects of worth pass through this town. As mayor, it's my privilege to have first refusal on them. Books, art, furniture. She rotates her hand at the wrist as she lists off items. And we inherited some from the previous... Oh, that was Eowyn, okay. Eowyn is silenced by a withering glance from his mother. He slides down in his chair, as if trying to disappear below the edge of the table. The mayor claps her hands together. Well now, she says, since that's accounted for, we can return to the matter at hand. Didn't really answer her question, but okay. Address the conditions in the town. As my colleagues can attest, the conditions in town are grave, you say. We're not dealing with a simple pox, but with a sickness unlike any we have encountered before. But this is your profession, is it not? Sybil replies. I've done my duty. The diseased are being housed within the sanctuary. I notify the Crown when the pestilence reveals itself. In the face of many hardships, I've endured this quarantine. He thrusts a finger in your direction. So if this town falls, my hands are clean. The failure will be yours alone. You consider your next words carefully, mindful that the resources under the mayor's command could still be marshalled to your advantage. I'm going to make the case as a physician. We're going to stick to the Dockley ways for the moment. I've not professed to know everything about medicine, you say. No shit anybody in our position. You obtain knowledge of sickness, of disease, through painstaking study, sometimes through trial and error, other times through sheer bloody mindedness, or minded luck. At your side, Alice nods in approval. We cannot guarantee that the waking dead can be cured, you continue. However, to stand any chance at all, we must use any resources at our disposal. You, Mayor Blake, hold many of those resources. With your aid, we may stand some chance. Sybil contemplates your words. It seems to me, she says, breaking the silence, that you are admitting defeat. You do not understand this plague and cannot cure the population. That's not what... Furthermore, this means I will have to take my own steps to protect my family. Sybil stares at you, defiant. Since you are incapable of keeping us safe, I shall double the militia patrols and ensure that not a single sneezing peasant will so much as set a foot in the upper quarter. Your stomach tightens as you realize Sybil intends to abandon the rest of Thornback Hollow to its fate. No matter how hard your colleagues try to plead for reason, or how loud your voices are raised, the mayor will not bend to your will. Her decision is made. The room descends into an easy silence, save for the sounds of servants gathering up empty plates. Candles burn low. The last streaks of daylight are now a memory. Eowyn, please show our guests back to their rooms, Sybil says. Despite their differences, I insist you all stay the night. The weary faces of your colleagues suggest they will not complain. Eowyn stands and motions for Ioko and Alice to follow him through the dining room door. You're about to join them when Sybil requests that you stay a moment longer. She waits for the others to leave the room, then clears her throat. There is another reason I invited you to dine with me this evening. I have something to ask of you. She notes your sour expression. before you dismiss this out of hand, I remind you that I have full support of the Crown. What is your request, you ask? In the course of your investigation, you may uncover certain unflattering rumors about me. I would suggest you disregard these lies. That is all. She adjusts the sleeve of her gown. Won't be part of cover for the ruling class as a fellow embroidered the crown or your wishes. Few are willing to take and save the actions without remorse. You have my support. Mayor Blake, I intend to cure the plague. Yeah, nothing more. Sybil looks at you, trying to gauge your intent, waiting for further words that do not come. Yes, she says, narrowing her eyes in thought. Very good, yes. One of the candles burns out, sending a sudden plume of smoke into the air. You stifle a yawn. The morrow approaches, Sybil remarks, noting your exhaustion. You may now take your leave. Aemon has been awaiting your departure and meets you in the hallway outside the dining room. He escorts you back to your room. You bid him good night, receiving a meek smile in return. On the bedside table you see your plague doctor's mask. The weight of responsibility in those hollow eyes causes your stomach to churn. You look away, mind laden with doubt. There's so much work to be done, so many avenues you left to pursue. But even as you turn these considerations over in your mind, you feel your body sinking into the embracing sheets of the four-poster bed, slipping without effort or resistance into luxurious sleep. Okay, back to slumber. Crisis and conspiracy. You lie upon a velvet-soft meadow, the gentle warmth of the sun soothing your face, your body anchored to the earth by the comforting pull of relaxed muscles, shoulders loose and supple, birdsong drifting from the distant hedgerows, the hushed sway of leaves lulling you with their rhythm. You could stay here forever, but for a tickle at your feet. The sensation tugs, dragging its insistent call across your senses. You tap your foot, trying to shake it off. The sensation grows. It creeps from your soul, winding its way between your toes, up around your ankle, a deep, aching shiver of cold. You open your eyes, stretching beneath the generous cover of Mayor Blake's lavish guest bedroom. The late autumnal morning is struggling to shrug off the darkness. Despite the early hour, you feel more rested than you have in some considerable length of time. Yet the sensation still nags. Another twinge of cold grips your foot. At some point during the night, you must have kicked off a portion of the lower blankets, leaving your appendage exposed to the room's icy intrusions. Before you can draw your foot back inside the blanket cocoon, you spy the source of the chill. The window has been left slightly ajar, a narrow crack inviting the night's freezing grasp inside. You grumble to yourself and pull the sheets tighter. It is to no avail. Your sense of bliss is fading with the warmth. The morning calls. Bracing yourself for a blast of cold, you feel around for your plague doctor's robes and perform an inelegant transference of your body from blankets to clothing. Your breath forms an indistinct cloud in the air as you shamble over to the window, sealing it at last. Through the dull green glass, you see a dense fog hanging over the central lawn. It sits heavy in the space between the ring of expensive homes. Something else catches your eye. You peer closer. There's a shape in the fog, moving, gesturing, perhaps signaling for aid. One of these two. Let's go with this one. It's freezing out there. As a doctor, it's my duty to provide assistance. Judging by the temperature of your own room, anybody stranded outside could suffer serious harm if left exposed for too long. You need to get down there. Snatching up your wolf mask from the table beside the bed, you give the tussled blankets a final longing look, then head out into the corridor. Fortunately, you can recall the route to the entrance hall. You linger beside the staircase to the upper floor, waiting for a servant engaged in some early morning dusting to move on. The fewer questions you have to answer about this, the better. As the servant's footsteps disappear into another corridor, you undo the locks of the main door and slip out into the fog. Grab your boots. Recalling the fate of your boots the previous day, you search for them in the dismal light. There's a thin layer of frost on the manor's doorstep, biting at your feet. The air is still, crisp, a harbinger of winter. You locate your footwear, arranged neatly beside a pair of brushes. The muddied bristles tinge with white. You pull them on as fast as you can, cold fingers fumbling with straps and laces. Grass crunches underfoot as you advance into the fog. You look back at the mayor's mansion, attempting to navigate by the window of your guest bedroom. Shrouded by mist, the manor's silhouette keeps its secrets. There's little choice but to press on across the lawn. You call out, hoping to get the attention of whoever is wandering around out here, but the words stick in your mouth as you feel your foot strike against metal, almost sending you tumbling over. Reaching down, you find the culprit to be one of the hoops from the previous afternoon's game. As you straighten back up, you catch sight of a shape in the murk. Near, far, the distance is difficult to assess. You pull your hands inside the sleeves of your robes to dull their protests against the cold. "Hello?" you call out again, adding clouds of your own frosted breath to the mist. "Do you need help? I'm a doctor." The fog thins as you see the shape once more. Closer now, you see the outline of a cloak, shifting and undulating with the changing density of the mist. Hear a sound like branches, glancing against one another. You look around, aware suddenly that the silhouette of the manor has slipped away, lost in the encroaching fog. As you turn back towards the cloaked figure, you hear a rustling to your left. Your mask is knocked asunder. There's a sting at your cheek. Too late, you see the shape swoop away. You hold your hand to your face, feeling a trickle of warmth. And something else. You tug at the object, snared in your skin. It comes away from your flesh with ease. A bloody thorn. Whatever this figure is, I should learn as much about its medical physiology as I can. No matter the strangeness of this encounter, you feel confident your attacker is more corporeal flesh than entity. You study the thorn in your hand. It appears mundane, no different from the snares and brambles found on bushes across this realm. You look around, searching the fog for another glimpse of the figure. Crisp cold seems to peel at your exposed skin. You try to cast those sensations aside, concentrating on the object of your investigation. There, to your right, catch sight of them again. Just a few feet away. As you observe their movements, you realize that, shorn of the elements of surprise, the shape looks even more human. A person, not even a very tall one, making small, pacing motions beneath a thorned cape. "I have you figured out," you call. "You're no spirit or deity. What business do you have here?" As your words turn to frosted haze, the mist seems to momentarily part. You see the target of your taunts, no longer shrouded by the confounding fog. A human figure, dressed in foliage, by human hands, their face concealed by a hood. They hesitate, close to exposure. Then they break, dashing away from your accusations. Return to the shadow of mystery. You give chase, wheeling your legs into motion, but the fog thickens. Your bearings are lost. You are left adrift on the lawn, searching for the faintest ghost of a landmark. There's a crunch beneath your feet. Stooping, you retrieve a folded piece of parchment, dropped by your enigmatic assailant. see, who is this person that's talking to? Oh, okay. Gamble, are you over here? A familiar voice reaches your ear. You call back, relieved, their boar mask piercing the fog. I found this and feared the worst, Ayoko says, handing over your wolf mask. What possessed you to start roaming around in this fog? You recount your experience and show your colleague the folded parchment. He opens it, tilting his head as he studies the contents. Looks like some kind of directions. See here? There's a mark. I think that's in the old quarter, somewhere south of the tannery. Your teeth chatter as you nod in response. Ayoko points back toward where he emerged from the murk. You need to be out of the cold. Come on, it's this way. How? You stammer out. Did I find you? Little luck. A lifetime on clouded field of battle. And in the main, because a servant informed me, they saw you sneaking out. You pull your robes around you and trudge back together towards Sybil Blake's residence. Okay, let's get ourselves indoors. Ayoko guides you into a rectangular parlour where Alice attends to a cracking fireplace. Her mask is off and her hair falls free. Small plates of food rest atop a circular table. You stumble across to one of the carved wooden chairs and slip yourself down onto its cushioned seating. The heat from the nearby flames starts to draw the ache from your bones, at first with an intensity that makes you wince in discomfort, then with a gentle massage of warmth. Your arrival makes Alice turn from stoking the fire. She sees the blood tracked across your face and looks to Ayoko with some concern. I found our companion out questing in the fog, he says. Apparently had some kind of run-in with a sentient hedgerow. His face is a mess, Ayoko. Don't joke about this. Barely a scratch. The cold did more harm than the thorns. Thorns? Alice glances at you. Another friend of the dweller, you say, rubbing your hands together for friction. Or somebody wishing to give that impression. I'll track down some vinegar for your face, she says, standing. When I get back, you're going to describe exactly what happened. As Alice departs, you feel your empty stomach ripple in complaint. Your body is thawing, uncovering displaced needs beneath the frost. The plates of food are within arm's reach. I think I'll toast some bread on the fire. You skewer a chunk of bread on the end of an elongated fork and hold it as close as you dare to the dancing flames. When the crust begins to darken, you pull it away. The exterior is crisp as you take on an eager bite, and the bread warms you as you swallow. It feels worlds away from the makeshift cobbles you consume at the sanctuary. Hunger sated, you slip back into the comforts of the chair. Ayoko stands with his arms crossed. Gazing into the fire, you feel your eyelids begin to droop. The sound of the logs in the fireplace, gentle popping and spitting, lulls you down. No vinegar, but I found some wine in the cellar. It'll serve. Alice returns, pulls you back from the edge of the sleep. You put your hand to your clouded head and watch as your colleagues pour wine into clean cutting of cloth. She touches your hand, moving it from your face as she holds the soaked texture against your skin. You wince as the alcohol seeps into a cut. As the cloth is moved away, your nostrils fill with the sweet scent of the bouquet. Be more careful out there, Alice says. I don't wish to lose you. Noted. No more wandering headlong into strange fog, you reply. Footsteps in the hallway draw your attention towards the door. Mayor Blake sweeps into the room, a white gown trailing in her wake. The jewellery of the previous evening is no longer in evidence, but her hair is once again arranged and raised in a structure of immaculate design. She looks from the shallow puddle, left by damp footsteps, to the open bottle of wine by Alice's side, then brings her glare to bear upon you. "That chair," the mare says, sinews in her neck tightening with every word, "which you are currently despoiling with your filth-encrusted robes, is one of a kind that you ever see in your lifetime." This is a tough question, actually, or a tough answer. I kind of feel like just telling her to get lost. But we need to keep on side. Between these two, I'm gonna go with this one. I think that's what we would do. We've been attacked in the fog. We're not feeling like our head's a bit groggy, and now she's coming in complaining. Yeah, we're not standing for that. I point out the injustice of that statement. Isn't that inherently absurd, you say? How can a single chair possess more value than... "Get out!" she says, in a whisper laced with fury. A stern finger points your way to the door. "All of you, pick up your things and leave. The hospitality of this house is at an end." Without a word, the three of you make your way back to your rooms to collect your belongings. Let's depart the mayoral manor. You look back at the manor as you trudge away from its oppressive grandeur. From a landing window on the second floor, Sybil Blake watches you leave. To the left, higher up, you think you catch a glimpse of young Aylwin peering out from behind the silken curtain. Even with such luxurious surroundings, you imagine him a prisoner. The fog has receded beneath the advance of mid-morning sunlight, easing your progress back to the main town. Despite the sun's periodic resistance, a biting crosswind ensures that your robes need to be pulled tight about your body. By the time you reach the descent from Thornback Hollow's upper quarter, any facial extremities unprotected by your mask have gone numb. As you proceed down the hill, you find yourself finally provided some shelter from the bluster and roar. "Did you not find our sudden eviction a little strange?" Alice asks, no longer having to shout into the wind. "Mayor Blake set me up in that parlour room, even invited me to stoke the fire. She seemed perfectly pleasant." "That was before Gamal tracked soil and water over her precious chair," Ioko says, disdain in his voice, "and before you raided her cellar for wine." "I'd really characterize it as more of a medical necessity than a raid, but that's my point. She had no shortage of alcohol, and that chair was wood and cloth. Respectable handiwork, but was it truly of such high value?" "Perhaps it was an heirloom. Who knows? She was obsessed with status and decorum. Wet clothes and uncouth behaviour are like mortal wounds to those people." Ioko's right. Aristocrats would sooner protect a chair than a pauper. "Maybe." Alice falls silent and begins to rub her forearm. Together, the three of you descend the last set of stone steps to the base of the rise. You keep your eye on the warrens as you pass by, but the rabbits must be keeping snug in their burrows today. As you join the main road through town, Alice recalls that you were interrupted before being able to recount the tale of your morning encounter. You describe the event to her, the curious figure in thorn garb, and the fragment of parchment left behind. She listens behind her fox mask. "It's time we confronted the abbot about the dweller," she says as you conclude your account. No matter his cousin's feelings towards us, we deserve some answers. You look at the sentry towers in the near distance. Your desire to converse with Abbot Quelm is met almost at once. A flustered monk intercepts your group outside the sanctuary gates and directs you inside with considerable urgency. You are led down a series of corridors, past alcoves and reverent tapestries, to a set of double doors. Your guide knocks twice, bows, and departs in haste. "Enter," comes a voice from inside. Ioko opens the door, and the three of you cross the threshold. Abbot Quelm stands with his back to you, facing what you presume to be a broad altar. Icons of the sage decorate its carved face, and pairs of candles stand atop the surface. The smell of oaken incense lingers on the air. You see Quelm bow his head, whisper a few words over the altar, then turn to face you. "We parted on uncertain terms," he says with a sigh. "But I see that our burial rituals have been upheld." The abbot's hands are clasped together, his fingers woven together. "My prioress, Marilda, pushed for your expulsion. I'm glad I did not heed her advice, for the sanctuary still has need of your skills." "We have questions too," Alice says, "about the door." "I shall answer your queries in good time," Queld says, cutting in. You see anxiety etch into his expression, his face drawn and weary. "We're in the midst of a crisis." "Another influx of the waking dead?" Ioko asks. "No, I do not believe so," the abbot says, "though the manifestation is just as strange. Last night, 2 of our monks fell into permanent silence. They stand, motionless, without speech. We can't get them to respond to anything, nor will they eat or drink." "Curious," says Alice, "and worrying." "We'll do what we can," you say. Let's take our leave. You're met outside the abbot's room by the prioress, Marilda. She explains that the afflicted monks have been transferred to the basement room, in which your temporary laboratory has been established. "We had to carry them down these stairs like corpses," she says, her expression troubled. "I've never seen such a condition. We took precautions, of course, but if it can spread..." Her voice trails off, not wishing to entertain such a thought for too long. The 4 of you cross the threshold into the converted beer cellar. 2 hooded figures stand motionless at the far end of the room, draped in shadow. "It was decided that they should face the wall, so as not to cause alarm," the prioress says. "Though now I see the results, I'm unsure whether this makes the matter any less disturbing." Let's approach the shadowed figures. With your colleagues at your side, you advance with caution. The monks are standing upright, arms by their sides, silent sentinels keeping the devoted watch over a blank section of cellar wall. Ioko takes hold of one of the green hoods, pulling it back with care. Unblinking eyes reside beneath. Your boar-masked companion leans in closer, holding his hand before the man's blank face. "They're breathing at least," he says. "Barely." "Any thoughts, Alice?" you ask. She puts her hand to her head in contemplation. "I'm aware of plants and infections that can cause rigidness in the body, but nothing quite like this. Sorry, Gamel, I'm at a loss." "We need to draw them back beneath the sage's canopy," Marilda says. "Something has pulled them from our deity's embrace. I propose a ritual of cleansing immediately. Or they may simply need to convalesce," Ioko offers. "These torments by the violence of the battlefield can those tormented by the violence of the battlefield can withdraw into states like this. I've been witness." He pauses, as if drawn briefly from the memory. "Our confrontation with the waking dead is not a war, but..." You look at the statuesque figures. Okay, we're going to make a decision that we wouldn't normally do, but we're going to do it because we have maybe feel like we've gotten on the wrong side of the mare, and Quelma's just told us that he almost listened to Marilla and kicked us out. So we want to keep Marilla on side. So because of that, we're going to ask her, to do her ritual. Marilla, begin your ritual. This reeks of impurity. The prioress tilts her head. The only prudent choice. Give me a few moments to gather some clergy and prepare. She gives the silent monks a last uneasy glance before departing the cellar. You await her return. Ayoko and Alice make conversation to dispel the eerie quiet. What are our options? What if this supposed ritual proves ineffective? Alice muses, keeping the monks in view, but shifting herself out of their reach. Could be the best thing is to do nothing, Ayoko says. If they're in a state of fear, I suspect, and Marilla can't jolt them from it, I'd favour an observational approach. The discussion meanders, eventually petering out into scattered small talk. There's a sense of relief in the room when Marilla returns, flanked by two more monks. Each carries a compact bundle of twigs and branches. The prioress holds a worn tome, bound in gnarled bark. We require 6 for the circle, she says, as the monks hold the sticks to a candle and distribute the smouldering wood. Form around our silent brethren, hold your branches aloft. Pungent smoke rises to the ceiling, lowering its hazy veil over the room. As you form a circle of 6 around the monks, the prioress opens the book and begins to read aloud. Beneath the great canopy, in the name of the sage, the oaken protector, benevolent steward of the harvest, by the power bestowed upon us, your devout keepers of branch and thorn, we call your brethren home. Her voice booms off the cellar wall, stern and commanding. You see the smoke drifting into the eyes and mouths, the rigid monks, a twitch of motion. Usurper, deceiver. The words tingle and nag in the back of your head. Like linguistic splinters, you hear the prioress's continued incantations. They feel far away. Separate them from impurity and return them to root and earth. Break the circle. Before you, the monks begin to spasm and jerk. The smoke stings your eyes, your head throbs. Break the circle. The monks fall to their knees. Undulating gasps escape their throats. Marilla's voice is but this distant trickle of an evaporating stream. Your limbs quiver with nervous energy. Break the circle. With a yell, you step back, cast down your branch and stamp it out. You're aware of a commotion. Ayoko shouting, the prioress's book cast aside, but it all feels of another time, as if happening to somebody else. You snap back with a jolt. The monks stand in silence once again. Ashes smoulder by your boots. Accusing eyes on you. Marilla's gaze bores into your being. I'm sorry, you say. I tried, She looks away in disgust. On your head be it. These sentinels are your problem now. The abbot will be informed that they reside in the cellar for the foreseeable future. Before you can reply, the prioress pulled her robes and belongings tight. You watch her leave. Ayoko lets out a slow breath. He looks at you, and then the monks, with a respectful hand, he raises their hoods. I think we could all do with some air, he says. These two aren't going anywhere. Nodding, the three of you head for the sanctuary courtyard. A cool breeze. A soft wind has found its way inside the courtyard, whipping the remaining blades of grass in all directions. In short gusts, you feel it nudge your robes as you inhale the air. It runs sharp and cold inside your nostrils. Above, a small flock of birds circled out of one of the sanctuary towers. Their cawing reaches your ears through the breeze, distorted and obscured. Ahead, gathered around the courtyard well, you see a scattering of monks. Barrels stand beside the stonework construction. The two of the clergy are manoeuvring more off an old wooden cart. "You looking to drink?" calls one, a woman with a missing tooth. "Could be," Ayoko replies. "What's happening here?" "Water supplies," she says, gesturing at the well. "Weather's turning. The well could freeze. Here." The woman hands Ayoko a container. "Pass it around." He lifts his mask, takes a swig, and hands the water off to Alice. She follows suit, as the three of you find a spot on the lawn where the wind's attention are less intrusive. Vicious plague, we're on our backs, troubled in the streets, and now the threat of water shortage. Ayoko's laughter is coarse and bitter. Ever get the feeling this assignment is a curse? Alice finishes drinking and hands the container over to you. She folds her hands into the sleeves of her robes for warmth. "I've seen worse." "You just stepped aside of a university, Alice friend," Ayoko says. "You've seen worse." "Just trying to channel what you might say," she grins. Her face creases in laughter once more. It rings lighter this time. "If you're looking for some cheer," she adds, "we're in uncharted territory here. It's a chance to make our names, improve our understanding of the craft." "Terrific," he says. "I can hardly wait to be recalled in ballads as the boar-faced idiot who died in Thornback Hollow." "Fine, misery guts. Gamble knows what I mean. Time in this town has already taught us something, right?" Right, I think that, like, for us, the main thing here, although maybe our medical knowledge has improved and become better as a surgeon, the main thing here is we don't believe in all this freaky stuff, but something weird is going on here. And it's kind of beginning to seep into us, so I think we're going to say, I sense echoes within these walls and have attuned my ears to their words. "That's a little unsettling," Ayoko remarks. Before you can respond further, the conversation is halted by the arrival of another monk. He stands close at hand and looks down at the ground. His hood is pulled as low as possible. His body appears to be trying to fold inward upon itself. You think you hear him mumble a few words. "What's that, lad? Speak up," Ayoko declares. The firmness of his tone makes the monk twitch even more. The abbot, he needs to see you. Sorry, that's what I'm supposed to say. Again, sorry." After delivering this last sentence, the monk spins on his heels and flees back inside the sanctuary building. "Nervous fellow," Alice remarks. "Well, seems like our time in the open air is at an end." She shivers and looks up at the afternoon sky, already turning toward evening. "Cold's rolling in again." You hand the water container back to the monks, tending their barrels, and join your companions in answering the summons of Theobald Quell. Walk the corridors. He knocked twice on the double doors, just as you saw earlier today. "Come in," you hear the abbot call. The three of you assemble inside the room. Abbot Quelm is seated at a narrow desk, quill still in his hand. On the surface before him you see stacks of parchment. A further pile resides by his feet. "You must excuse this mess. I am working on a comprehensive history of my tenure as abbot." He shuffles the curled papers around, finding a space to lay down his quill. "Now, tell me, what news of our most recent crisis?" Between you, you recount details of your efforts to resolve the issue. The abbot listens in silence, expressing himself only through the periodic flick of an eyebrow or twitch around his wrinkled mouth. "I see," he says as you conclude your explanation. "You have plainly given the matter your full attention. It would seem that things have quieted for the time being. For this I thank you all." Alice steps forward. "Now, perhaps you will hear our questions about the Dweller in Thorns." "Where have you heard that name?" the abbot asks, his face falling into a frown. In details as precise as your memory can muster, you recall your encounters with the Dweller. You describe your early morning confrontation in the fog and the vivid nature of some of your dreams. "This is of grave concern," Quelm says. "The Dweller in Thorns is a false and blasphemous idol, worshipped by a sect that rejects the embrace of this age. I have not heard of their activities in many seasons, but if they are active again, it can bode only ill. Tread with caution if you encounter their disciples again." "What exactly do they want?" Alice asks. "I cannot say for sure. In the past they have been content to perform their rites out of sight, acts of desperate heresy during times of crisis. That they are now seeking to intimidate plague doctors." "Should we be concerned for our safety?" I have never heard of them harming anybody," the abbot says. "But in your telling, they're certainly bolder. I would be observant of your surroundings." Using the desk for support, he rises to his feet. "Now," he says, "since there is no more urgent business, I consider these matters addressed. I trust we can keep one another appraised of any further developments." With a gesture towards the door, Abbot Quelm indicates that your audience is at an end. You thank him for his continued hospitality and depart through the double doors. Okay, and I think that is where we're going to leave it as well. So this video is going to be at an end as well as our audience with the abbot. Right, so I hope you have enjoyed. Hope you keep me safe out there, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button there on the right, or checking out some other videos here on the left, or perhaps you might even share with some friends.